Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go!
Hello everybody! I see some folks out there. Nice to see you all. It's great to have you here. How are you folks all doing this weekend? Have you had any fun adventures, antique, vintage, or otherwise? I've had a few. I've been pretty busy, honestly, with a bunch of stuff in Seattle. We are going to have some fun tonight. I have been putting aside items for the special monthly bonus video, and I have really tried to pick a bunch of things that are kind of interesting, and some of them are a little different, some I've never had before, a few things I've had but not in a long time. So, well, I have been in Seattle for about the last 2 weeks. I'm getting ready to go back to Florida. The way this works is that these items are going live on eBay as we chat, and so as we go through the chat and show and tell about the items, then Zeno is going to put a link in, and the items are going to drop on eBay, and you'll be able to see the link, and that way you'll be able to connect and see how these things are doing on eBay. If you're interested in purchasing, you guys have first option because you're seeing this first. I like the eBay for that reason, because everybody gets a fair chance that way, but also just want to do it this way so that you all get a pretty good idea of what things actually go for, because we talk a lot about, well, I got it for this and I hope to get this, but by doing it this way you can actually follow along at the Antique Nomad and see where things actually end up. Last month we sold the pre-Columbian piece for over $1,000, so that was a big surprise. So let's see, we've got some folks here. With no further ado, let's get started and show you what we put aside, because there's some neat stuff. So let's get started on some listings and show you the haul. I have been putting aside things. I always try to put aside 20 or a couple dozen of my favorite things, interesting things, stuff that comes my way, so that I can do these hauls with you and show you some different things than you see on my ordinary broadcasts. And so I've got a bunch lined up. Let's go look. The first thing that we'll be listing, and these all will be listing on eBay, and we'll put the links in the chat for the members, and if you're seeing this as a replay, you'll be able to go to the Antique Nomad on eBay or click the link in the bio and get to them. The first item for the evening is this set of dominoes. And these are not ordinary dominoes, these are Bakelite dominoes. So they are made out of the same thing as the jewelry and all those neat things, because it was easy to carve and hard to chip. So perfect for dominoes as well. The camera is a little bright. I'm going to see if I can't tone it down just for a moment so that you get a better idea of the real color of these, because they're more of a butterscotch color. So let's see if by clicking, yeah, there you go. That's more the true color. They're even a little darker than that shows. Let's try the other lighting. Yep, that doesn't help. Okay, well, you get the idea. They are a butterscotch Bakelite, and it's a full set. And what's nice is that it has the nice little cribbage board there with it. And so you get kind of double duty on these. I have a nice domino set that Laura Bimos made for me, which was very kind. She did it in pink and seafoam because my grandmother and I played when I was a kid, and those were our colors. So she made one for me, and that's what I have. So I'm selling this one. But it is very nice in the walnut case. It's got the dovetailing on the corners that you see there. And it's a nice little travel case from about 1950, right before Bakelite stops being used for this type of material. I expect this will sell somewhere in the $40 to $50 range, but we're going to start it a lot lower than that, and we'll see. Maybe one of our members will get a bargain. I've been really pleased that this has been working to allow some of the members to get a chance to buy things. Not everybody has the same dial-up speed, and so the live sales, as much fun as they are, sometimes excludes some people. And so I'm glad that we're able to do it this way. And it seems like members who are interested in some nice things have been getting to pick up some of them. Including a couple weeks ago, we sold a blue wedding cake bead Italian necklace, and it went for a very nice price to a member in Georgia, and I thank her very much for her purchase. And this set, I'm going to turn the camera lights down again so maybe the color will show a little more true, because it is more of a green color than it's showing. Let me see if I might be able to dim the lights to where you get that pretty green color coming in a little better. Let's see if we can get you to focus here. The wedding cake beads are done using enameling, which I hope will focus in and show here in a moment. Trying to get me out of the picture, so it will. There we go. Now you can see. See how all of that is layered on, and it is similar to cake decorating. That's why they're called wedding cake. But this is enamel paint suspended in glass, so when they fire it on, it has a dimension to it. And then we see the little pink flower on the side. There are 7, these are almost an inch long, these large beads with the wedding cake, and then 2 of the small rounds. And the other beads are Aurora Borealis. So this is a very pretty piece from about 1970. It has a barrel clasp. I'm going to show you what that means. Look how it looks like a barrel. Come on, let's focus. There, we'll pull out a little. There, you see it. And then you unscrew this, and that gives you your ultimate length. When you measure necklaces, this one is 21 inches, because the way that they're measured, come back to me, focus, there we go. There we go, now you can see. You measure from the clasp to the middle of the necklace and then double that, and that is the length of your necklace. So this is about a 10 and a half inch drape down, and the total length is 22 inches. Doesn't look so great against my hoodie. It would look fabulous against a pretty neckline, U-neck, or even on a sweater. A lot of people wear bead strands over sweaters. That was very popular in the 70s, and we are starting to see that in fashion again, especially with it being chilly in a lot of regions of North America and Europe right now. So this is a sweet little set. We're going to start it at a kind of normal price around, a low starting price, maybe around $30, and see where it goes from there. Now this third thing, I just love this. I was tempted to start out with this, but I thought it's so graphic and fun, I want to wait until I know that a few more members are watching. So, look at this. Lucky Pixies Luncheon set. I love this thing. Look at the graphics. So colorful, so much fun. All these little elfin creatures. Now they look like Vernon Grant's drawings for Snap, Crackle, and Pop, but they actually were done by another artist who basically kind of stole his ideas. But they use them very well. Love the mushrooms. This is early 60s, and it's got the legend of the Pixie folk written on it. Pixies were a good luck charm that became very popular during the Second World War when people were looking to have a little more luck. And the result was all of these sorts of designs by Treasure Craft and others that had the legend of the sprite, the lore of the elf. All sorts of cultures seem to have elfin figures. The Hawaiians had the menehunes, leprechauns in Ireland, and all of them represent mischievous but fun little people who go around and do generally nice things or little tricks that they play on you. And here we see the lore of the Lucky Pixie down the middle. This is an amazing set because it's never been out of its box. It's got 4 placemats and 4 napkins, which were made by the Barth Company out of Los Angeles. They actually put these sets together, and then they would get pieces from other companies to complete them. So they made the napkins. You've got the bamboo placemats, and then you have these wonderful salt and pepper shakers. These are Victoria ceramics out of Japan. So some of this was American made and some was Japanese. They were starting to import then. And Victoria ceramics
made a lot of really cute salt and pepper shakers and other small ceramics in the 50s and 60s in Japan. The fact that these have never been out of the box really matters because it means the red paint, which was painted on top, has not worn off. So the condition is just, well, new in box. And so it's such a fun graphic. It's just a really cute set, and I think it's going to be fun to see where that goes. I believe I'm starting it off around $20 for the set, and we'll just see what the collector market is. I have never seen one before. If I had, I would have absolutely put this in the go-alongs and lookalikes portion of the treasure craft book when I wrote it. I just think that it is so cool. And I think someone else is going to have a lot of fun with it. And besides, it's going to be, well, St. Patrick's Day before you know it. So time for elves and pixies and leprechauns. Now, I've been talking about viewers having a chance to buy things, and I showed these in a haul video, and a viewer was interested. And Kevin, if you're out there, I hope you're able to get these for a better price than I quoted you. I quoted kind of a high price on them because at least one of them I think is rather rare and valuable, and actually even higher than I had quoted, but maybe you'll get a deal on eBay. I wanted to do both of these. These listings are going to drop pretty much simultaneously. These will be two separate listings. And the reason for that is because I want to show, and you can follow along on my eBay, the Antique Nomad, to see how they do. I wanted to show how different denominations and different years may do differently in the marketplace, and we will find out together how that goes. Towards the end of the Confederacy, the $50 denominations became more prevalent because they were desperate for money and they were just printing higher and higher numbers, and it really wasn't worth much. But this one is dated 1861, and you'll notice it says State of Florida. The Confederacy did not have the ability to produce enough money and currency to satisfy the demand and the need, and so as a result, the states went to issuing their own. It also made sense because the Confederacy was a rather loose confederation of states as opposed to a more centralized government like we're used to. And so this one, you can tell it's original for a few reasons. First of all, this is real ink and it's smeared a little like real ink would. Secondly, reproductions of these are almost always printed on really dark paper because they think it makes it look old. The thing is that these weren't printed on paper, they were printed on a linen, and it had a high cotton content. So cotton doesn't age, it doesn't have acids in it that are going to age it and make it look brown like paper does. And for that reason, they should not look tea-dyed dark brown. Also, you can see the ink has come through a little bit on the back, which is appropriate. The $2 bill dates to 1864, and so this is the later one. The state of Florida was very small at the time of the Confederacy. Oh, she's having a wardrobe malfunction. I better move her off the screen there. I just noticed that. How naughty, and this was in the 1860s. Anyhow, this is a genuine one. Again, it's got the ink signatures where it would. John Milton, there's a town called Milton in northern Florida named after him. So it is the real deal, and I am curious to see which one will go for more. My suspicion is that the $2 bill will sell for around $50 and that the $50 bill could sell for as much as $150. But I've got my fingers crossed for my viewer that maybe he'll be able to get them at a price he can afford. Speaking of viewers, I've been saving this because we have, back to focus. It loves to focus on the close-ups and not always to come back to me. Maybe if I hide my face. There we go. That's better. In fact, I think I look much better already. This particular guy is really cool because he is from New Zealand and he's Maori culture, and we have had a couple of our viewers, particularly Nate from New Zealand, wanting to see this, so I figured I would put it on the level 2 haul. And it's hand carved. The shells are Paua, P-A-U-A, and cut out for the eyes. I think it just makes it really fun. Some of these can be pretty gargoyle-ish. I think this guy, one thing I like about the Maori designs is they have a real balanced geometry to them a lot of the time, and I find this one very attractive. I have to admit I was tempted to keep him for my collection, but I have a bunch of treasure craft wall masks, and I thought, well, you know what, I should let someone else have fun with this. It's got a sticker on the back that says Moana Wood Carvings, and that is a recognized company from New Zealand. I think these were being made about 40 years ago. And then N down here is the artist's signature. So it's just a really neat piece. These seem to sell in the $50 to $75 range online, and I'm curious to see how this one will do. I just think he's just as cool as can be. And now you have to look at me again. All right. If you are not liking what you're seeing, well then maybe I can offer you a drink. Because my next item is this cute little flask. These were made right at the end of Prohibition, when you could start taking booze around legally. They made these little guys, and they used some sort of a heat pressing process in leather to press in this design and this poem. This poem is referred to on the back as Tale of the Spirit, and what it says is, when your heels hit hard and your head feels queer and your thoughts foam up like the froth on a beer, when your legs are weak and your voice is strong and you laugh at hell like it's some damn fool song, well, you're drunk, by gosh, you're drunk. And on the back you can tell how drunk you are, because a camel is singing how dry I am and you'd really like a drink. So there's your first drink. Well, you have another drink, and well, the donkey, wow, that is some kick. By the time you're halfway down the bottle, it's saying, don't be a pig. But if you just keep on going, well, you are quite cocky, and there's the rooster to prove it. And down at the bottom is the end of the tail with the monkey, and you might be swinging like a monkey by the time you have this much booze. They're a lot of fun. I have one from St. Petersburg, Florida. The nice thing about them is they seal well, even being 70-some years old. They have a nice foil seal. Actually, I guess they're 80 years old now, come to think of it. A new decade has dawned. But these nice foil seals tend to keep them very well, and so they actually are functional as well as fun. I expect this will probably sell in the $30 range, but we'll find out together. Now, I like to put some things on that are not necessarily expensive, but just interesting for their category. And one category I really like and collect are stereo cards. Now, my personal taste are the ones that have to do with natural disasters. I started collecting the 1906 San Francisco earthquake and fire. There we go, get the right city. And that led me to discover that they have natural disasters as far back as the Johnstown flood in Pennsylvania in the 1870s, the Union Station flood in St. Louis, where they show the inside of the train station with 10 feet of water in it. These were done because stereo cards were really your view to the world. That and magazines in the early 1900s, before radios became widespread in the 1920s. Well, this is one way that you got information. So thousands of stereo cards were produced, but what I liked about these two is these are done before there's really much aerial photography at all. Airplanes are a pretty new thing in the early 1900s when these were shot. Now notice the boom. This was taken from the Washington Monument, and I hadn't seen these before, and I have two that I'm selling as a pair. But notice the camera boom. Notice how it's bigger in this side than on this side. Well, the reason for that is that stereo cards, the way, I wish I had a viewer I could show you, but they're those things with the hood you put up to your eyes and it has a stick, or you hold it underneath, and then you slide this up and down until it comes into focus. Well, when it comes into focus, the fact that those pictures are essentially the same picture taken at a slightly different angle. This is from the Washington Monument looking down at, I believe, the Capitol building in the far background there. And then here from the Washington Monument looking at the White House. And the reason that the pictures are taken at a slightly different angle is, you know that thing where you hold your finger up in front of you and you blink one eye and then you blink the other and your finger seems to move even though you haven't moved it. Well, that's your eyes doing what they call parallax, because your eyes are set a little bit apart and the two eyes together bring in a third dimension so that you can see depth. That's why these pictures are taken at slightly different angles, because then when you look at this through the viewer, your eyes with that trick will see three-dimensionally. So it's the first three-dimensional viewer. I think they're really fun to collect. You can find neat ones for as little as a few dollars, but I thought these were interesting because it is Washington, D.C. aerially shown at a time when that would have been a very unusual thing. These were done by the Underwood Company. I believe it says that on the top margin. And the later ones by Underwood did a lot of libretto. So this is talking all about how the photographer did it and what they're showing, and then it shows it in different languages. So they're fun and neat, and I think I'm only starting these at $5 for the pair. I don't think these are tremendously valuable. Some stereo cards, especially real photos of old places that exist no longer, like mining towns in Colorado, they can be a couple $100s. All right, let's see. So as we're traveling around the world, we're going to go from Washington, D.C. to a nice leisurely cruise somewhere. And the somewhere I think is Scandinavia, but I have looked everywhere. This is what they call a house flag. That's what they call the flags on ships that show the steamship line. And this is from a steamship. It's got nice enameling, and it appears to be Scandinavian. So I assume this is one of the Scandinavian line ships. If there's anyone out there who knows, I would love to know. I would have liked to have put in the listing, but I looked into these and spent quite a bit of time and could not find that particular flag with the stripe and the star. But what these are to grab your sugar cubes off the table. When you're at the captain's table, it is unseemly to use your fingers, so they have all these little doodads and accessories. Now, early ones of these might even have been in sterling if you were a first-class passenger. This one is silver plate. I believe it probably dates to the 1950s, looking at the way it's made. But there are a lot of people who do collect steamship-related items, just like there are people who collect airline-related or railroad-related. And so I just thought this was really neat, and I was very, very happy to get it, and I am excited to send it along and see how it does. And hopefully a viewer or someone on eBay will be able to identify that house flag for us so that we have an idea of which cruise ship this actually came from. All right, our next item is a sign. It is a very important sign. It's very timely right now, and I imagine if they spoke English in Singapore, you would see these all over the place, because it is telling you, caution, spitting on the floor into corners and out of the way places is unlawful, unhealthy, unsanitary, and dangerous. It will not be tolerated. And I'm sure they were quite serious about that. Now, there are a lot of no spitting signs on eBay. It's kind of a popular motif, but almost all of them are reproductions. This is not a reproduction, and there are not any others like this that I've seen recently. You can tell that it had use because it has some wear in places that it should. Another way to tell that it's original is look at the grommets. They have corrosion, so this was somewhere where it got some weathering. If it was brand new, that would be expected to be shiny bright. There's a little bit of corrosion on the back, not much. It's in pretty good shape. I'm sure it was in a pretty dry place. The squarish lettering is what I refer to as art moderne. There's a certain name for that type style, but it was very popular in the 1950s, which is when this would date from. And it is just a fun piece. I imagine that somebody who has a tobacco chewer in the family might enjoy having this. Or just because they think it's fun and it's some different kind of sign. I'm not sure what to expect from this. I imagine it could be $35 to $40. It might be more if the right person sees it and has a place for it. So we will just have to find out by putting it online. Sometimes you just do it and that's how you learn. And this will be a fun thing to learn together. Item number 10. I'm going to put it on my thumb. I think we have it where you can see some of the detail. The detail is very subtle, but you'll notice there's press details in the side of this car. This little race car is by the Tootsie Toy company. You can see in the bottom there. Not sure how well that'll focus, but there we go, Tootsie Toy. Tootsie Toy was a Chicago company, and they made lots of these die-cast metal toys, but they tended to do very simple, inexpensive toys. They were kind of the cheap end of the market. They did dollhouse furniture. They did a lot of neat stuff. This is 1930s, and what's great about it, it's got one tire that's a little flat from sitting because rubber does like to decay. So even if it's a toy car, it is good for you to, just like you wouldn't leave a real car in the garage on its tires for years and expect them to not go flat. Well, this also needs to be done that way. So I'm going to set that down for 1 second. Because I hear my housemate is home, and I want she and her dog to be able to commune without us hearing it on the computer. So in any event, the car is just really neat. I love the fin. This is a race car. It's 1930s. I've seen these before. They're generally blue. So the white is a more unusual color. And I suspect the value on this is $15 to $20. And the paint's in good shape. So that was fun.
So while I'm thinking of it, please comment in the space below here and also hit the thumbs up button to like this video. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button below. Also hit the bell below to be notified of new videos coming every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for following along. Let's go back to this video.
Now, since I was on a toy and game kick, our next item is in this box here. Now the box is worn, because this was a travel box. It was supposed to go with you, and sometimes the leatherette gets worn after a while. This is from the 1920s, and you'll see it's the Heavenly Twins visiting case, patent applied for. Heavenly Twins was one of many branded items out of China. This is a Mahjong set. And Mahjong is a very popular game in China that became a very popular game in the United States in the 1920s, in part because of Prohibition. When all the bars closed and people couldn't hang out anymore, they wanted someplace to hang out and something to do. So all these tea parlors opened up and you could play Mahjong. And Mahjong with the tiles, it's very easy on the computer because the computer does the hard part, which is stacking the tiles correctly. But it was a lengthy game. You could sit for 2 or 3 hours and sip tea and play this, and it was a way to socialize where you were not hanging out drinking beer. These are all Bakelite dice with the, let me get one out. These have the various card suits on them. And then there are, it looks like 7 of those. And then there are 140 of the chips. And the chips are made of bone and bamboo. And we're glad that they're bone. It used to be we'd say, oh, it's too bad it's not ivory. Well, the ivory is elephant ivory, and most places don't let you trade in that anymore. So we're glad that this is bone. One way you can tell the difference is because you have striations and little black spots in the bone. And so those are going to show up. I'll show you another one that'll be a good indication of that. And I think you can see in here a few imperfections and black spots that are because it's the natural nature of bone. It's not the kind of thing that you see in elephant ivory, which has a herringbone pattern that is very smooth, and as a result you wouldn't see those kind of specks. So that's a good way to tell. That way you know you're not dealing in something that you're going to get into trouble for. Now these Mahjong, this one has 140 tiles. They came in, depending on how you played, between 136 and 152. So it does have the requisite number, and there's some cool Asian designs on these as well. And there are 4 trays full of these tiles that stack into this little kit. So this is a fun thing. We typically, on the bone and bamboo ones, see prices somewhere in the $150 range is kind of an average.
and I will be curious to see how this one does. There are a lot of people who do play Mahjong still. It's a particularly popular game on the East Coast. And interestingly enough, I buy those sets on the East Coast and take them to the West Coast, and they almost always sell right away because people there haven't seen them as much. While we're going around the world, our next stop is the world. But this is the world as shown in Arabic. This is a book plate that is hand-tinted, hand-colored. It has a date on it. A friend of mine who reads Arabic is going to try to tell me what this date is, right where my fingers are. Those are date numbers. I know that the dot is a 0, the 1 is a 1, and the 9 is a 9. So 109, and I'm not sure what the other figure is. That likely has to do with the Arab calendar, which was different than the Western calendar that we use. The obvious thing here is that it's the continents, and it's showing all of them. And you'll notice that Antarctica is quite large and a little indefinite, partly because exploration of Antarctica was not very complete, and partly because the northern countries in Europe and North America, we tend to use what they call the Mercator projection, in part because it makes northern continents seem larger. The world is not a perfect circle. It is not a perfect globe, and because of that, the projections on maps are not always as reliable as you think, because we're trying to take something that is not truly round and make it a round shape, or take something that is a round shape and apply it to a flat surface. And so there are different ways you can project maps, and in this case, the Arab world wanted to show their place in the middle of things, and so it's a different projection than we're used to. These were very popular to collect and frame about 30 to 40 years ago. And then with all the strife in the Middle East, we really quit getting these types of books and the book plates, and so you really don't see them on the market now. And so that's why they seem to be selling for about $45 to $65 online. So we'll see how this one does. I think it's very pretty, especially that deep blue color around the light sea color. I think it's just a very pretty color combination and would look nice in a lot of houses and dens and man caves and other places that people like to hang maps. So we will see how that does. The next item I want to show is a nice light little Polaroid gigantic, heavy camera. This is an early Polaroid, and this one is the Model 110. The strap is in great shape. That matters a lot because those tended to rot. If these were put up in an attic or a hot place or a place that weathered, they can just snap on you. You open it up this way, and it is like the old diaphragm cameras. So it has a bellows. Let me see if I can pull this out here. Okay, this goes this way. It's usually a pretty easy straight pull, but I've got to find the release. There we go. The little black button here is the release, and out it comes. And then you've got your camera. Now the 110A is a good model. The 110B seems to sell for even more because it had some improved features and wasn't around as long. You flip this open, and there's your lens. Different lenses lead to different values. And of course, the more accessories, if this had a case and accessories, it'd be even more valuable. But the important thing is that, and I've been through it already, that if you're buying an old camera, you can't always have time to shoot film through it. So you want to look at things like, is there light coming through the diaphragm? Because that will mess up your picture. Do the buttons all seem to work? Can you set the timers? I went through all of this, and it does seem like everything is good. This is a 47mm lens, rodent stock, which is a pretty good lens. Some of the lenses are even more deluxe, and those cameras will sell for more. I expect this one will sell somewhere in the $50 to $75 range. It might go higher, it might surprise me. It just depends on who's out there and what they're looking for their collection. But Polaroids are collectible again. Now we see a ton of the little plastic point and shoots from the 70s, but these older models are definitely something that people desire. It's got all the information on the back on how to use the film. And I even read somewhere that Fuji makes some sort of an adapter so that you can actually use these again, which is kind of neat. It's really interesting to me. The camera companies and filmmaking companies have figured out that people like shooting these old cameras and they want the film. So you can actually find obsolete film for almost any camera ever made and go shoot them and do neat art photography with it. I wanted to bring another one of these pretties for you all to see. I don't have much of this left. In fact, I keep thinking I'm pretty much out, and then I find one more piece here and one more piece there. So this little chamber stick is Gouda pottery from Holland, and a lot of my viewers have really enjoyed these. This one is by the Pensay company. I haven't had a chamber stick for sale before that I can remember. They are not so common. It's usually little vases. All hand painted in an Art Nouveau way. These are going to date to about the teens or 20s typically. This is not a chip here. That's just a little place where the blue paint actually ended up on the blue glaze ended up on the rim. So it looks a little different than everything else, but it is not damaged. It's just different. That's all. And that's because there's a lot of handwork in these. And so you're going to expect little variations like that. I think it's a very pretty piece. Chamber stick was a single candle that you took with you like a nightlight or to get around when you had to carry something. You didn't need a pair, you just took one. And I just think they're really beautiful. I'm happy to have another piece of Gouda to put online, and I imagine that it's probably a $40 to $50 piece, but I'm not starting it that high. We'll see how it does. I bought these over a year ago, and I think they are just wonderful. And I put them aside because I do a show in Packwood, Washington, and one of the other dealers is a gal who drives a bus at Glacier National Park and then comes and does the antique shows in the spring and the fall. And that's what she does for her retirement. Between the two, she makes some nice pin money and has a good time. And I put these aside for her. Well, then things happened and we didn't have the show this year, so I still have them, and I've decided that it is time for them to go online. Originally, you paid $1 for 24 of these. Now, somebody kept half of them, so I have 12 in this collection. But what's really neat, they were by a fellow named Reinhold Weiss, who came from Germany and then became fascinated with the Native Americans and started doing very realistic illustrations, trying to capture them in their original garb before they westernized and didn't look like this anymore. These 12 somebody else really loved too, because there are little pinholes in the corner where they were hung. So they're not absolutely mint, but the graphics are so great and the colors are strong. And look at the depictions of the people. And some of these blankets and outfits they're wearing are just so valuable now, if you could ever even find any of this stuff. And they've got great names and they talk about who they are. This is Turtle and his young son. There's Turtle and his young son. The colors are just so neat. These were done by the Great Northern Railroad. They were commissioned by them and sold at their depots and given away as calendars. This is longtime, let me get this right. Yes, longtime pipe woman. We have, I'm going to try to show you all of them because I just think the graphics are so great. We have this couple here who are double steel and two cutter. And these are all Blackfeet Nation. They also did Nez Perce, other tribes that lived along the line. And they've got that great deco appeal as well because of the geometry. The Native Americans had a lot of geometry in their designs, and so their designs were co-opted into Art Deco very readily in the West. This one is Juniper Buffalo Bill and Little Young Man. Just such great expressive pieces. I'll just hold up a couple more so that you can see.
and the colors are so much fun. I expect this set, because it's not complete and because it is used, will probably sell for around $30, which, if you think about it, for a bunch of neat things to frame, they would look so cool with a collection of basketry. They even work with farmhouse decor. If you're in certain parts of the country, this would be something that would definitely match. Here we've got this fellow, I believe, is Night Shoot. I love the names too. They're all very expressive and very much part of the clan, but also what what their skills were. Here is Many Horses, Little Rosebush, and Their Baby. A little better focus. There we go. So I just think those are so neat, and I'm so glad that I am going to get to share them with somebody, since they didn't go to the person I had in mind. They are ready for someone out there in eBay or YouTube land, and I hope whoever gets them has a lot of fun with them, because I think they're really special. In terms of big graphics, well, there is a fascination in this country, at least. It's interesting because in Europe, in Eastern Europe, they can't wait to get rid of this stuff. And who buys it? Well, Westerners, because we had our longtime rivalry with the Soviet Union. And here is a silk banner for Lenin. You see the hammer and sickle at the bottom. This is genuine. This was displayed somewhere. I have a friend who's going to interpret the Russian so that we can tell people what this actually is about. You'll notice that it does have some fading because it was actually used. It's a lot, well, let's see how we can do this. So there's the, let's turn it so you can see the amount of fading. There's the front side as we see it now, and see the back side. However, they're still in good condition. The fading is even, it doesn't have stains. A little bit of crackling in his hair that you can see, but all in all, considering these were made to be ephemeral, hung and then thrown away, the fact that any of them still exist to me is pretty amazing. They seem to go for about $40 or $50, and that just came to me this week from an estate in Seattle. It's so funny because I've been telling people that, people think everybody in Seattle is some big radical, and I've been telling people it's not like that at all. And then I go into this estate sale that I was called into to pick through and try to find things to sell for them. And it turned out, well, she was a radical. So there you go. So from Karl Marx to her to you. In any event, I find most of the people who collect those are far from being radicals. They are usually people who are historians, a lot of time very conservative people who collect them because they want to show how we outlasted the Soviet Union. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. Coins. I have collected coins since I was 6 years old. I have to admit, I am not personally a big collector of these mint sets because I like old coins. But for people who want to collect newer and want to use it as an investment or see coins as sculpture or want to give a gift, these mint sets are really neat because they do come from the United States Mint. They have a certificate of authenticity. This one is the Mount Rushmore anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Mount Rushmore in 1991. And it says on the back, Department of the Mint, so that's your certificate of authenticity. And then inside, in the nice case here, you open up, and that's where your coins are. And here is the set. This particular set, what's neat about these is that the commemorative coins are not put into general circulation. So these are made at the San Francisco Mint. All they do there now are collector coins. They don't do stuff for general circulation, but they do in some of the sets like this one include an example of the general circulated coins at the time. So you've got the regular penny, nickel, dime, quarter, and half dollar, and then you have the silver half dollar and silver dollar that are commemorating Mount Rushmore. One designer would do the front, one designer would do the back. We'll turn it over here. and they are what they call proof. Notice how I can show you, I think, if I turn it the right way. You see the reflection of my ring light in there. It's very blinding, but the point is that the mint in San Francisco for the collector sets, if you buy a proof set, what proof means is that they have taken an uncirculated coin and then buffed it so that it has a mirror finish. And that is what proof means. And so proof is something even above uncirculated because it's something special that was done never to be touched, never with the intent of having been put into circulation. So that set should sell for somewhere in the $45 to $50 range, which is not a bad price considering that the price of silver is up. So for people who are, I don't necessarily recommend those as a silver investment because it's more of a collector thing. But if you're buying with an idea towards future value, well, then buying something with silver in it is not a bad idea at all. Next up is this, and I just think this is cool. It's another old sign, but this one is a gas station sign. And it's Swifty, and this is another thing where we need to talk about reproductions. Now, I have not really seen a lot of reproductions of small gas station stuff that is obscure, unless it has a really amazing logo. But this one does not appear to be a reproduction in any event because, again, you see a little bit of evidence that it was hung, and it took a little of the paint away. Also, you can turn the back over, and where is the corrosion? At the bottom, where it should be, because moisture collects and drips down and then gets stuck in where this was sealed up against the wall. So the corrosion should be on the bottom. It should not be evenly distributed around the edges, which is what a lot of reproductions do. So when you look at something like this, you want to look and see if the amount of wear and where the wear is makes sense for the piece. Now this is after they were doing the deep porcelain signs, but they're still doing the screen painting on metal. This is 1950s. I think the color is great. Ethyl is a additive they used to put in leaded gasoline, which of course we don't do anymore because we don't use leaded gasoline anymore. So that tells you its age. I haven't seen one of these for sale for anywhere for a really long time. So I'm not sure exactly what to expect, but I imagine it should go in the $100 range, and we'll find out. And again, if you're curious how these things turn out, follow along with the Antique Nomad on eBay and you'll be able to actually see the completed prices. Our penultimate item, it might be surprising to some of you folks because it's in this little cardboard sleeve here. I'm going to take it out. And it's got Mickey Mouse on it. It also has a sticker on the back that says, "Made in China." And you think, well, George, you're an antique dealer. You do vintage. You always talk about how you don't like new stuff from China. Why would you be selling that? Well, I took on a consignment for a fellow in Florida who inherited an estate, and his friend who had left him the estate. Let me try to get our focus back here. This fellow was a Disney shareholder, and that's why I took 5 of these. 4 of them sold right away at the Mount Dora show that I did to Disney enthusiasts who were all very glad to get them, and all said the same thing, which was, yes, we know they're only 10 or 15 years old, but you can't get them unless you have shares in Disney. So they're actually pretty limited in number. And here's the little paper tag in there that says that these are an original limited edition for Disney shareholders only. And that's the reason that we're going to put this online and see how it does. The other ones all sold in the $40 to $50 range. This one seems like it's probably in that area as well. And there are collectors who are really happy to get them because even though they're not very old, they're not something that's readily available to most people. And when you have a really popular collectible category like Disneyana, there are going to be people who want newer items as well as old. And as long as, to me, the issue is not just age but availability, because that's not something you can just go buy new.
you can't just go to the Disney park, or, well, they don't have Disney Store anymore, but you can't just get them there. There aren't a billion of them out there because everyone and their brother bought one. That's why they're interesting to me. So we're going to put that online and see how it does. But our last item is truly vintage. She's almost antique, actually. There's her light bulb. That is cracked ice. It's a crackle. It's not a crackle glass. It's actually just a pattern in the glass to make it look like crackle glass. But the reason they did that is because they thought it would really look good on top of her. And I'm going to get out of the way so you can see her better. This is a wonderful Art Deco lamp by a company called New Art, N-U-A-R-T. No space between those if you're looking them up, by the way. Because if you go online, you will sometimes find bargains where they spelled it N-U and put a space and then A-R-T, and nobody found it because that's not how people are genuinely looking them up. This is just so sleek and so elegant, and I think she's just a beautiful form. I don't get a whole lot of Art Deco lighting. I've had some luck the past couple of years, and I have to tell you, every time I get one of these, it sells immediately at the next show I do. And I thought, nope, I'm going to put this one aside, and I'm going to put it out for our level 2 and ultimately all viewers to be able to see and have a chance at. She's been rewired. A lot of times on these older lamps, that's actually a good thing. Now, there was a company in New York called Frank Art that did similar work at the same time in bronze, but this one is not bronze because you can look at the bottom and that is spelter. It's tin and lead and maybe tungsten and other materials that are put together that are soft and easy to mold as opposed to bronze. A Frank Art edition of a very similar piece to this might go for as much as $400 to $500. This particular one will probably sell in the $175 to $225 range. And we're going to find out because we're going to put her online. You'll see the link to her and all of the other items. You can look in my bio, go to the Antique Nomad on eBay, and see how this all turns out. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.